You know, I bet you a lot of people thought I was bluffing when I said that I was going to turn this into a track bike. Believe me now? That is right, people. We are taking this humble little roadster and we are turning it into something special. This is going to be a long series because there is a lot of stuff to do on this motorcycle. But the first and most exciting thing that I've got here is a set of Ohlins rear shocks. This is going to be a massive improvement to this motorcycle, but we're not just doing the shocks. We've got a new kickstand that's a little bit longer because we are also increasing the ride height of this motorcycle significantly. Now, for those of you who are wondering why I've decided to spend $1,600 on new shocks for this motorcycle, the biggest thing that you can say about most Sportsters is that they're dragging too much ass. Most Sportsters have a shock length of about 11 inches in the rear. Some are even shorter than that, and that dramatically hinders the handling on this motorcycle. The Roadster has 13-inch shocks from the rear, which makes this one of the best handling Sportsters. But if I want actual ground clearance out of this motorcycle, I need more. But what I do have is a Bung King lift kit for the swing arm, which is going to add over an inch to the ride height. So we're going to get damn near 15 inches of rear suspension travel. Now that is going to necessitate a very long kickstand because it is definitely going to make this thing lean way far over if I don't have a longer kickstand or a wood block. And I don't want to carry a wood block around like some chopper guys, so I'm just gonna extend the kickstand. And then, like I said, new foot pegs, because if I'm on a racetrack, I really want to be able to feel my feet sticking to the motorcycle. And these Roland Sands pegs, they're a bit of a bummer. But that's enough yapping. Let's dive on into this thing. And honestly, this should be a super easy install. Now, normally I prefer working on the lift, but this isn't gonna help. So I'm just gonna work on the ground. I am really hoping that this exhaust isn't gonna get in the way. Because if the exhaust gets in the way, I'm gonna have a problem. That did not want to come off. So here's why I don't think I'm going to have any clearance issues. So first of all, I've got this lift kit, which is going to sit right on top of where the current mounting pegs are. And it should add, this adds about 1 1/8 inches of clearance. And then I've got a much more svelte shock here. And I'm also going to add about 1/2 inch of rise there. So fingers crossed, everything should be okay. Well, I've been sitting here test fitting parts. And the Bung King stuff that they sent doesn't fit. So that's not great. But the other thing that I'm realizing here, it is highly unlikely that I'm going to be able to continue to use the stock exhaust, which is a real bummer. I wanted to switch up the exhaust anyway, but I didn't want to spend the money yet. So I may be looking for new stock system for this bike. So great. First thing I got to do though is I need to head over to, there's a American Bolt down the way. I think that's what it's called anyway. Got to get there before they close because I'm doing this late in the afternoon. And I need to get some different big beefcake threaded bolts. Although, you know what? I'm gonna try something. Oh, Spite, I hear you say. Spending cash on the suspension of a Harley is a waste of money, I hear you say. Harleys can't turn, I hear you say. Wanna bet? Come take a ride on my Sportster and see how it handles. I'm not joking. This bike is up on RiderShare for you to rent.
RiderShare is the biggest online rental service with thousands of bikes across the US for you to check out. If you're traveling and you want to get on two wheels, or maybe you want to take a test ride on a new bike and you don't want to do that dumb loop that dealers take you on, then you can just rent the bike you're looking at. Or if you're like me and you have too many bikes, list them up for rent so that you can have them start paying for their spot in the garage. I've got my Grezzo, my 919, my Sporty, and my KTM available for rent, and in just 4 days over the MotoGP weekend, I made more than $700. Click that link down in the description below and you'll get $25 off your first rental.
All right, let's try this again now that I'm back from the hardware store. Let go. I think the Ohlins were a little compressed. Bolt this sucker up just so that it's dangling loose like. You'll notice I actually have already extended this one, so I'm gonna have to go back through and do the same thing on the other side. But now comes the real question, whether or not my trip to the hardware store was worth it. And it was very much worth it. That is much more gooder. Perfect. Perfect. Torqued to, yes. Now I gotta do the same on the other side. All right, let's get the tail end where it needs to go. Man, this is getting really tall. Okay, now I need to do bolt, collar, spacer, spacer, and then, boy, that's close. Needs to be a little taller though. There we go. Now I'm just doing this up finger tight because you're supposed to send these home with weight actually on the tire. So now let's do the other side. All right, torque this to yes. Yep, that's yes. Now I need to loosen up this so it's longer. Goes. Make sure I'm at the right length here. Spacer, spacer. Get a little Loctite on there, and then we send it home. Ta-da! I don't know, man. That feels like it is the exact same length as this kickstand. Maybe it's at a different angle? I don't know. I'm gonna be slightly upset if that's the case. This was not a cheap kickstand. But it definitely feels like I'm gonna need a wood block. Let's see. All right. Holy shit, is this tall. Maybe that's taller. It still feels like I got some serious gangster lean going on though. Holy fuck, is this tall. Well, that's exactly what I was looking for. All right, now it is time to get these pegs set up. They have these little teeth. Every single one of these is gonna need thread lockers, so, because otherwise they'll just all fall out. Ask me how I know. I've been down this road with this before. Dab of blue on every single one of these, and then torque them home. All right, let's set the angle of this. I think that's probably pretty good, and then get that torqued down. Problem with buying American parts is you get dumb sizes, but Small price to pay. Those look damn good on that bike. Ta-da! We're done.
Alrighty, folks, welcome to day 2. It took me a little bit of time to get that tail end put back together. It was a little bit more complicated than it should have been. And one of the things about this setup is it ended up being a little bit different than what Ohlins called for. They want you to have these two spacers over here. But I ended up with spacer, and then double spacer down here because the shocks were kind of pointed in like this. And it's on rubber. They're on rubber bushings, but I didn't want the shocks sitting like this. I want them going straight. So you can see they're straight up and down right there, which is good. We have a full, like, fist and a half between the tire and the fender. There's a full-on air gap between the fender right now. It looks very different. It looks very, very different. To give you an idea, if you're a Sportster guy out there, to give you an idea of how extreme 15 inches in the rear is, my gas tank is now flat, parallel with the ground. So used to be it was like this. Now it's perfectly flat, and the frame is tipped forward, right? So it has steepened the rake of this motorcycle quite significantly. And I've been riding it around to get out here, and holy cow, does this bike feel different. It feels faster. I know it's not, but it feels faster. I'm just going to say that. Something about this whole setup has just made it feel just better. I really do like these pegs. On the highway, they suck. They really, really suck because there's nothing between me and the vibrations. So, if you're out there and you're looking at some grippy pegs for your Sportster, I highly recommend these, but if you're doing a lot of highway riding, you may not enjoy them so much.
Again, I know this bike isn't faster. I didn't make it faster by putting these shocks on, but somehow it has kind of transformed the personality of this motorcycle. It feels so much more aggressive now. And I was really worried that the front suspension wouldn't be able to play with some jacked up rear suspension. I thought we'd be putting too much weight on that front end and we'd blow through what already doesn't have a ton of travel in the first place. But honestly, it's feeling pretty good. It's pretty well paired, I'd say, between the front and the rear. I am starting to realize, though, because I'm riding this bike faster, just by nature of it feeling a lot more like a naked bike, that there's faults with this setup now. I think before my track day, which means I need to go home and do this tonight, I need to see if I can find a set of V-Rod calipers. Worst case scenario, I'll just take them off the giveaway V-Rod and put them back on after the track day, because I feel like these brakes are a little bit underwhelming now at the pace that this motorcycle's going. Like, I definitely have to brake a lot sooner. They're still pretty good, but I feel like I'm not getting the performance that I was when I was going slower. I genuinely don't know how much of that is down to the fact that I went with Ohlins versus, like, had I gotten Legend, or Progressive. Would I still have this much fun? Probably. I think most of this, honestly, is down to the fact that these shocks are way better than what came on here stock. Like, I've still got it with the factory setting from the Ohlins, which is 12 clicks out for rebound and compression. But I have 8 threads of preload showing. So it's feeling pretty close to where I need it to be. One of the things my buddy Dylan was telling me is like, make sure that you can get into a full tuck on the bike. And yeah, I can do it. I really wish that my seat was taller. Because if I'm like sitting down here like I'm on a racetrack in this full tuck, you know, my hips are getting a little bit cramped. But it's not bad. You know, I think a little bit of stretching every session before I get out there, and it'll feel good. One thing I will say though, if you're a Sportster guy and you're out there looking at doing this, do be careful the first time you get on it, because that front end is going to be a lot wobblier than you're used to. Like, I was going down cruising at like maybe 85, and it wasn't automatically on its own throwing wobbles, but if I tried to induce one, you know, like every now and again, just to get used to the feeling on every motorcycle, I'll induce a steering wobble, and it's straightened back out. It's straightened back out for sure, but I definitely was like, ooh, okay, that's a bigger wobble than I was expecting out of this bike. I know that this V-twin, it's only like 77 foot-pounds of torque and maybe like 66 horsepower. It feels like more than that somehow. I don't, maybe it's just because I'm feeling so much more confident through the corners, and I'm just carrying a little bit more speed than I normally do. It's also really comfy getting your butt moving side to side. I actually feel a little bit more confident on a racetrack in a more upright seating position. I just feel like I can move a little bit easier because I'm, you know, a lazy human being who's kind of out of shape. But the more I ride these Sportsters and the more I throw parts at them, the more impressed I am with the package that Harley gives you, or gave you, because they don't exist anymore. The frame is surprisingly solid. The suspension, the front suspension on this bike, surprisingly solid. The brakes with proper pads and bled fluid, surprisingly solid. Once you jack the rear end up, the character of the motorcycle changes instantly. Instantly. Do you need 15 inches in the rear like I got? No. But I will say, 15 feels really, really good. This feels a lot more like a one of the air-cooled Ducati Scramblers now, just in the seating position. And it feels a little bit more open, too. I feel like I have a little bit more room. I know I don't really, but it feels that way. And this is a good opportunity for me to show you out of that camera the new bend in my leg. This seat is so tall now that I barely have a bend. If you're on the shorter side, maybe don't go to 15. Or if you're on the tall side and you want to ride a Sportster, go to 15. But now the next time you see the EVO-RR here, it'll be out at COTA. I need to get a set of proper tires on here because these TKC70s, I've squared off the rear tire pretty good. And despite how surprisingly grippy the TKC70 is, I can do better. I'm thinking about maybe if I can get a set of Rotattack 3s, or because Conti dropped tires like this for the Rotattack 4. I think maybe Pirelli, I can get a set of Angel GTs on here. We'll see. I've got some options, but I'm very excited to go confuse a lot of sport bike dweebs at COTA. That'll be a lot of fun. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.